Welcome to Small Biz Life, episode 22.
Is there a catch?
Nope.
Does this sound familiar?
Oh my god, I have so much to do today.
Don't forget to breathe.
But I have almost 400 emails in my inbox and 30 phone calls to make.
Have you looked into getting a virtual assistant yet?
Oh, and I need to schedule all my social media posts.
Did you drink anything today?
I had coffee.
Did you eat today?
Did I mention coffee's a bean?
This is Small Biz Life. Welcome back. As always, I'm Jeffrey W. Ingram.
And I'm Kristen Ingram. And we are here to help travel along your small biz life journey.
You might say to give you the tools so you can weed your own small business garden.
Wow, that sounds exciting.
Weeding. Oh, yes.
Oh, we have too much snow for weeding. So each week we start our episode with what's in the news. And what did you find in the news this week?
Well, it's nothing much that people would probably find too interesting, but very important stuff. And it's this article from slate.com called "Before I Can Fix This Tractor, We Have to Fix Copyright Law."
Okay, what does copyright law have to do with tractors?
Well, like many things in our lives today, tractors contain software. And much like your cell phones do, your cars do, your microwave does, but most appliances that you use today actually have software and little computers on them that help them perform their jobs better. And the problem is that this is actually a story of a computer engineer who essentially was contacted by a farmer who wanted their tractor fixed. And the problem is when they started doing the research on what was wrong, very quickly the engineer found the issue with the tractor, but to fix it, they would have to fix the software.
I would never think to contact a computer engineer to fix my tractor. It's not usually where I go when our tractor breaks.
Well, yeah, but I mean, we don't have a fancy farm tractor either. And I'm sure if you're buying these fancy farm tractors, you probably, it's like buying a car. You would know that there could be a computer problem with your car. One that like maybe makes it pass emissions test, something like that. Sorry, cheap shot. So what happened was back in 2014, they approached the Copyright Office to fix the tractor because the only way to do it without violating the Digital Millennial Copyright Act, also known as the DMCA, they had to get an exemption from the Copyright Office. And as most of you would probably be shocked to learn, the copyright holders have a lot of sway over the Copyright Office. It is you and whoever you can afford versus usually a corporate industry lobby group that specializes in protecting their intellectual property. The thing to really keep in mind is, especially as you're buying new appliances today, our thermostat, it's a computer.
Your Fitbit is a computer.
Your Fitbit is a computer. Most of the things that you're using that ingest power today have computers to some degree, and that's only going to grow. And you get into this argument now where who owns the software? And now I can understand there are certain issues with allowing people to change products that you're making and resell them. But this is literally an issue of someone wanting to get their tractor fixed. Two groups ended up having to get involved after the computer engineer, as they would call themselves, the repairmen, basically wrote comments in support of the 27 exemptions that were brought forward, one of which was for tractors. They testified in front of the Copyright Office, helped collect 40,000 public comments in support of the copyright reform. And when it came down, the Copyright Office said no. And then
wow.
What happened was essentially groups, including some of the favorites of mine out there, the Recording Industry Association of America, the Entertainment Software Association, the Alliance of Automobile Manufacturers, and the Motion Picture Association of America, all helped with their lawyers to block these exemptions.
Okay, so what does the recording industry and the motion picture industry have to do with trying to fix your tractor?
Their fear is any breaking of any copyright rule is a slippery slope to someone maybe owning a single they buy off of iTunes.
Oh, for good. Wow.
Because just in case you don't know, you own the right to listen to a song provided by iTunes when you buy it. Now, you can't listen to that same song in a different store that sells music, but only in iTunes. You cannot record or sell that or let people borrow it unless the software itself gives you the ability to do it.
Wow.
Most people can't afford to fight any of those major industries, let alone all of them teaming up together on you. So one of my favorite nonprofits, the Electronic Frontier Foundation, better known as EFF, and also the Public Knowledge group from the University of Southern California's Intellectual Property and Technology Law Clinic, and some other organizations decided to come together in 2015 to help get some of these exemptions unblocked. Long story short, they finally made an exemption to the rule for the farmer.
So he could fix his tractor.
So he could fix his tractor. The farmer could fix the tractor. However, their mechanic was still not allowed to work on the tractor. So now, with this highly complex software, to be able to work on your own tractor, you now have to possess what would we call, and this is not an insult against the skill, it's actually the opposite of the name, is low-level programming. However, they did get that and some of the other exemptions passed. I am a fan of the notion of intellectual property. If you come up with something so innovative, so new, you do deserve the right to be able to profit from it for a limited period of time. The problem is with technology, it moves so quickly that traditional copyright laws are not effective at best. And there is actually an argument against copyright rules in general. Part of me, who is the fiction writer, is a bit weary of no copyright laws, but especially in technology, copyright rules are broken. The idea that a company like Apple could have a copyright for, I believe, 20 years on the motion of pinching or unpinching your screen, and they get paid whenever you do that on a device. And if the device manufacturer does not pay them, you can guarantee that they will be taken to court. Samsung, Apple, Google, Microsoft use these all as weapons to help prevent innovation that could compete against them in the industry, and that's wrong. These are the kind of rules that break things down. The idea that you can copyright a business process. Well, if there's specific technical things, maybe. If there's a specific actual innovation, maybe. But some of these rules are so broken where for years there was what they call intellectual property troll firm that owned shopping carts. And they would just sue everyone that had a shopping cart on their site and collect usually a settlement from them and just rake in the money. These people did not create. These people did not even utilize a shopping cart.
They didn't even know how it worked.
They didn't even know how it worked. Just if you had one, they sued you. And luckily, Tiger Direct finally went to court against them and beat them. And I believe that patent is now broken. For me, the idea is really, it's like if you make these, like if you come up with a new kind of computer, that's the kind of thing that intellectual property was meant to protect. Not every little thing, every little idea, like pinching makes something smaller. That idea existed before a computer.
Wow.
So, but there it is. And my one warning with this article today is when you do stuff, there are rules like fair use. Make sure if you use images from other people, you understand those, because there needs to be a few things that happens to make it an actual fair use case. Usually the safest way to do that is through parody. They have the most generous rules if you are making fun or jokes. Just ask the South Park guys and what. I won't complete that song name. Just be careful if you're packaging or reselling software that uses code from anyone. If you do, usually you have to give them, at least acknowledgement, or potentially you owe them royalties on any of your sales. If you don't know and your business, if you think it might be at risk, I would suggest you contact an intellectual property lawyer or send an email off to the Electronic Freedom Foundation. They have people who could be trustworthy that they could at least recommend to you in your area. I would hope.
Excellent. Okay. Wow, that's frightening.
Yes, because just the idea that you need like this obviously very skilled computer engineer to fix your tractor. They're like, well, you can do it. It's like grabbing the wrench and going under the hood. No, it's not.
Yeah, no, it's not. Wow. So my information this week with what's in the news is actually the IRS had an outage this week.
Woohoo.
Yeah, well, no, not woohoo.
Not woohoo?
No. The IRS e-file system went down for about 24 hours this week. It is back up and running. One thing that I'm finding from speaking with other tax preparers and from my own experience is that the refund system seems to be a little bit slow this year. When the e-file system went down, the Where's My Refund system also went down. And what we're finding is that we're not getting updates for when refunds are coming out. So that's fun.
Excellent.
People are looking for their refunds. And see, this is another reason. Remember, we talked last week about why you don't want to get a big refund. Here's why. Okay, because right now the IRS is saying it's running on a 21-day refund schedule if you get a direct deposit. We're finding that might not be the case. We're still waiting for updates to determine when people are going to be getting their refunds.
Which is better than a few scenarios I remember happening since 2008 where states were just like, we're going to issue you an IOU for your refund and we'll get you that cash as soon as possible.
Yeah, California did that.
At least once.
Yeah.
And I know there was at least one other state that was talking about doing that. I remember there was a big hoopla over that too, because there were people who were looking for that money to pay on their mortgages. Initially, the state said the banks would accept the IOUs, and the banks were like, no, we won't.
At least the nice thing, though, is that if you're e-filing your return with a preparer, we can queue your return up into the system. So essentially what happens is when your tax preparer e-files your return, we send it to our software provider, and then our software provider checks it for errors. And then they upload it to the IRS, and then the IRS either approves it or sends it back. And so even if we have another problem with e-filing, preparers can still send their returns up to their software providers, and the software providers will hold on to them until they can be transmitted.
I know, I forget the name of the company. Is it Drake who does your software?
Yeah, I use Drake.
Now, they have software for individuals called 1040. Is it 1040.com, I believe?
Mm-hmm.
Now, if someone does their own taxes through software, something like 1040.com, would that also be queued up once the return is ready and it would just submit whenever they could again?
Right. So, yeah. So Drake, 1040.com works the same way, that they would queue up the tax return into the system. And then when the IRS gives them the go ahead, they'll get transmitted. I was a little bit worried that the system would crash again with all the tax returns that were sitting in the queue waiting to go. But it seems like so far it's held up.
Well, I mean, usually governments are pretty good at spending the money required to collect tax money.
Right. Well, this is, you figure a lot of the money, though, is refunds. Maybe that's why that system's not working.
They'll get that up as soon as possible.
Right. Right now, we're all clear, but if you're expecting a refund, it may take a little bit longer than we expected.
And for any IRS tax auditors listening, I was joking when I laughed at the systems going down.
Yeah, don't laugh at that. That's very serious. It's a terrible problem for the government to be having.
For cereal.
So this week's topic was actually inspired by a question that I received from Clay Shaver at the Remodeling Clay podcast. If you're not listening to the Remodeling Clay podcast, you should really check it out. It's on iTunes and Stitcher and all of the platforms that the podcast are on.
All the places a podcast should be in. He has a background, unlike us, in broadcast. So very well-produced show, I think.
Yeah, and Clay's big thing is being the best version of you. The podcast really inspires me to be a better business person, to be a better podcaster, to be a better human being. And so, you really want to check out the Remodeling Clay podcast. So Clay asked me this week, he said, I'm looking for an accountant. What should I be looking for? How do you pick an accountant? So that's what we're going to talk about this
I have
week.
a great list I worked up for this.
Oh, really? Oh, lovely. So that's scary. So here's the thing. You know, when I first started working in public accounting, there was this idea that a small business person should have a circle of trusted advisors. And those advisors would be a good small business attorney. If you're in intellectual property, you might want to have an intellectual property attorney. You would have an accountant, a financial advisor, and an insurance person. And in the last 15 years, we've become very do-it-yourself, right? I'm going to do my own taxes. I'm going to do my own legal research. I'm going to use LegalZoom. You know, I'm going to get my own insurance through the internet. I'm going to manage my own stock portfolio and all my own retirement. And we've kind of lost that circle of advisors concept. I think it's really important to surround yourself with trusted advisors. And I love mastermind groups, but I think we have replaced that circle of advisors with the mastermind groups. And they're two different things. In my practice, most of my business clients I talk to on a regular basis, at least quarterly. A lot of them I speak with monthly. Many of them we email back and forth every week. I am there for them to be that advisor. So when you're looking for an accountant, you're looking for somebody that can help guide you, who's going to walk alongside you as you're building your business. Somebody that you can shoot a quick question to, or you can call and will help you make decisions. A good accountant should be somebody that you go, crap, I don't know what to do. I'm going to pick up the phone and I'm going to call my accountant. Because if you pick a good accountant, this person should have years and years of experience working with many different businesses who have probably gone through the same thing that you've gone through.
And they probably have clients who have similar businesses to your own. I mean, I think one of the first things that I would be worried about is, well, maybe they do a lot of traditional businesses, but maybe they've never worked with the online business before. So that would be for myself probably one of the first questions I would want to know the answer to. Yeah.
So one of the questions you want to ask is the type of businesses that the person works with. You want to make sure, and I would do this before you even talk about your business, because I've seen a lot of times where accountants will say, oh, yeah, I know how that works. And they've never worked with that type of business before because they think that it's close to something else that they've worked with. So you have to be really careful with that. Before you disclose any information about your business, interview the potential accountant. Okay. So that's one thing, is you're looking for someone who is familiar with your type of business. And especially if you're in the online space, whether you're podcasting or blogging or you're producing ebooks, a lot of CPAs are not familiar with how ebooks work, how affiliate marketing works. So you want to make sure that you find somebody that's familiar with those areas. Because online business is just it's not so much that the rules are different, but what you can deduct, the streams of income that you have. If your accountant is not familiar with that, then they're not going to know what questions to ask you. So I think that's important. You also want to look at the person's education. And not so much where they went to school, but what they went to school for. There are a lot of tax preparers out there. I think it's important to note that for tax preparers, the IRS had tried to regulate tax preparers, and there was a court case and the IRS lost. So basically anybody can put up a shingle and say that they're a tax preparer.
So someone could have like their own version of like 1040.com and you bring it in and they just use the software.
I mean, they could buy the software that I use.
That's true. But if they don't really know it, that would probably take them longer.
Yeah. But I mean, I know that there are people out there that are preparing tax returns with TurboTax.
Yeah.
And they're just going through and they answer all the questions and hopefully they answer them right.
Maybe they take it into H&R Block and then charge you a fee on top of it.
Oh, that could be it too. So, like in my case, I have a bachelor's of science in business administration with a concentration in accounting, which when you look at that, against the schools that have accounting degrees, I took all the same classes that they did. It's just the school that I went to, you had a concentration in something, not a major.
And you were sort of very insistent that it matched up with accounting degrees from other places.
Yeah, that was one thing that I looked for because I knew that I was going to sit for the CPA exam. I also have a master's of science in accounting and taxation with a focus in tax, which essentially means that I took 10 additional tax classes after I finished my undergraduate degree.
Okay.
A lot of people, they'll think, tax is really easy. It's just, a whole bunch of forms. I've seen people with psychology degrees preparing tax returns. I've seen people with associate's degrees in, computer programming that are doing
industrial arts
tax returns. So there really is no degree requirement. Okay. But you're looking for somebody that's got an undergraduate degree in accounting. And if they have a graduate degree, you're looking for a graduate degree in accounting. Okay. You also want to ask them about their experience before they went out on their own. So if you're going to an individual who is preparing taxes, somebody like myself, you want to know what type of experience they had. There are a lot of people out there who finish their 4-year degree and then decide they're going to be a tax preparer. One safe bet is if you hire a CPA is required to have at least 1 year of experience in most states, even with a master's degree. And if they don't have a master's degree, they're required to have more experience than that. So a CPA is typically a good bet, but we'll talk more about that. But, you want somebody who has worked for somebody else. The tax code is incredibly complicated. Your undergraduate degree only requires you to take 1 or 2 tax classes. Typically, that's one basic individual accounting course, which might do a week on small businesses. And then some undergraduate accounting programs will require people to take a corporate and partnership tax course.
Okay.
So, but a lot of people just have a very basic, this is how you do a 1040. You plug in a W-2. This is where you put the interest income.
Hopefully they go over what all that means.
Yeah. So when I went out on my own, I had 6 years of experience working for a small firm, which was great because that's really where I learned, how do you treat clients? How do you manage clients? What type of services you can provide for them. And then I worked for a regional firm for a year. I spent 7 years working with small businesses before I went out on my own. You want to ask the person what type of licensing they have. Are they a CPA? Are they an EA, which is an enrolled agent, which is licensed with the IRS? Both of those require continuing education. If you do not use somebody that's a CPA or an EA, you want to ask them what type of continuing education do they do? And even if you hire a CPA, what type of continuing education do you do? Because if they don't do any continuing education, then that scares me a little bit because the tax laws are constantly changing, especially with things like the Affordable Care Act. There are cases that are being litigated every year that change what the definition of a home office is or a meal is or an employee is. And if they're not keeping up, then you might have an issue. There are a lot of older tax preparers out there who still think that the home office deduction is a plague on your tax return. And that's just not the case anymore. So if you're not keeping up with the changes in the tax code, the changes with the IRS and their enforcement rules, then the person could be doing a great disservice to you. You want to look at the categories of continuing education they're doing all of my continuing education is either technology related or tax related. CPAs that are doing audits and financial statements, a lot of their continuing education has to do with those areas, and they might not be keeping up with tax as much as they need to.
Well, I mean, I think one of the misconceptions for non-accountants is they think of a CPA as a tax person, and there's audits, there are financial statements, there are a bunch of other things that they can do, and they might even focus on those things. So, I mean, it's really a pretty huge field.
The CPA designation is actually a financial statement designation more than it is a tax designation. Most CPAs are doing financial statements for banks and for investors, and that is also a very complicated set of rules. And so they may be spending a lot of their continuing education time in that field. So education, licensing, and continuing education. Okay, those are like the three basics that you want to ask about. Once you've done that, if you're still in the room, right, if you're happy with the answers and you're still in the room, as I said before, you're looking for somebody that is going to help guide your business. So you want to talk to the person about how comfortable they are with technology. What accounting systems are they familiar with? I know a lot of accountants that they will say, just go into QuickBooks, print out a profit and loss, and bring that to me. As somebody who is a QuickBooks Pro advisor and has worked with Xero and has worked with Wave, business owners don't always know where to put things in the accounting system. And so if your accountant is not willing to go through your books and help guide you and say, hey, listen, you don't want to put your health insurance there. You want to put it over here. Or, hey, this is actually an asset. You can't expense this. You've got to put this over here. If the person doesn't look at your books, then they're just going to put down whatever you put down on paper. Mm. And if you do get audited, you're the one that's going to get in trouble, not them.
And now, correct me if I'm wrong, too. If you get audited and they have a finding against you, they're more likely to come back again the following year, correct?
Yes. And if they're major errors, they can go back further. So, you want to make sure that you're working with somebody that's going to help make sure that your books are clean and that you're presenting everything on your return that is deductible. So, for me, technologies are, I've said this before, I'm a technology junkie. If I find out about a new system that you can use, for your books, I want to know about it. And especially with the online systems, a lot of accountants are still using QuickBooks Desktop and they're using Peachtree. And so when you ask them about like QuickBooks Online or using, forget if you ask them about Wave or FreshBooks or Xero, they're like, I don't even know what those are. It's not QuickBooks. So, you want to make sure that whatever you're using, that the person that you hire is comfortable with that. Mm-hmm. You want to ask what type of services they provide other than tax services. I said that most of my clients I talk to on a regular basis. We're doing strategy sessions. We're talking about hiring employees. We're talking about subcontractors, how to make the business more efficient, even things like, what's an effective way for me to get my website redesigned? And I think I get a little bit more of that because I'm really into technology. But you want to find out, like, how can this person guide you? Will they sit down with you and look at your profit and loss statement on a quarterly basis and say, okay, listen, it looks like you're spending too much money on this. Here are some suggestions to cut that. How can we look at growing your revenue? What are you paying your affiliates? All the things like that can help you become more profitable. Is this something that they're good at? So, I want you to think when you're hiring an accountant, think about more than just taxes. Think about someone that can help you all year long, that can be that trusted advisor, that person you go to when you say, you know what, things aren't growing the way I want. Do you have any ideas?
I think that's important too, because I just know from talking to you, a lot of errors that you've seen clients make are typically when they make major decisions for their business and they don't ask beforehand, are there going to be any tax implications? Are there things I should consider when, doing it? Should I, just start up that shop somewhere, in a different state, or where do I store my inventory? A lot of these questions can have huge implications. And if your tax person goes on vacation April 16th and comes back December 31st, and they don't answer their phone or check their email in between, you could be stuck.
Right. Yeah, and that's a good point too. You want somebody that's going to be there year round. You don't want somebody that opens up an office for 5 months of the year and then, heads back down to Florida.
Yeah, I mean,
unless you're in Florida.
Yeah, it might make sense if they're available, they'll do Skypes with you or they'll interact with you still. But, if they really only operate for, 4 or 5 months a year and then they're gone, what happens when you do have that question?
Right. So you want to make sure that somebody that's going to be there for you, and I would also ask too how many clients they have and how much staff they have, because that's going to tell you a lot about how much time they have to devote to you. If you go to if you go to a tax preparer and they're doing 600, 700 tax returns by themselves, that should be a flag. That's a lot of work. Also ask what their average turnaround time is. Ask how many tax returns they put on extension. You'd be amazed that accountants will take on new clients and then they have so much work that they end up putting a ton of people on extension, even if you drop your stuff off in February. And so you want to ask, what percentage, how many tax returns are going on extension?
And especially for a small business owner, because you have to make sure that you make your estimates, and you have to, if your return is due before April 15th, that has to be paid before April 15th, does it not?
Right, correct. So, if you drop off your taxes in February and the tax preparer puts you on extension, if you owed money, you're going to pay penalties because you didn't pay it in by April 15th. Or they might say, hey, I want you to pay in 20 grand when you really only need to pay in 5. So I've seen a lot of issues with that. I have a policy that if you make it into my office, usually by April 1st, I will get your tax return done on time. I hate extensions because when April 15th comes, I want it to be over.
Yeah.
So I'm the kind of person that I follow up with my clients. I kind of push them along to get their stuff in so that we can get the returns done.
Well, especially for you prefer the consulting side over the taxes at this point. So, you don't want to be working on the taxes afterwards. Well,
and the thing I find too is that, and don't be this person because you're going to drive your accountant crazy. Typically what happens is, somebody will call me like the end of March, beginning of April, and they're like, oh, I'm really not ready. I don't have the time. I can't get it together. Can we put it on extension and I'll get it to you by the end of April? And I know that's not true. I know that's not true. Because what's going to happen is then, it's going to be May and it's going to start to get warm, and then your kids are going to get out of school, and then it's summer, and then, oh my God, the kids are going back to school. And then it's the middle of September and I'm hounding you down because your extended tax return is due October 15th.
And there's no extensions from that one.
And there's no extension after that.
And then usually those same people will struggle to get it to you in enough time to get done by then.
Right. So that's why I'm very anti-extension. I just am. Because it doesn't end well. So, and that's another reason why I really push all my clients to use something like QuickBooks Online or Xero or Wave, because I'm talking to a lot of people right now and they're so disorganized and they're trying to pull all their records together. My records, I clicked a button. I said, print this report. And it was done. It took me 3 minutes, if that. And that's including like turning on my computer, getting the internet up, going to the website, logging in, picking my company, going to the report section, and printing, and opening the report. So having a system that you keep up to date is going to make your life so much easier. And even if you didn't put your records together for 2015, it's not too late. You can subscribe to one of these services, and I'll link them all in the show notes. And you can actually enter your stuff from 2015, just to help you learn the system, to get everything in there. And then 2016, you can go live. Okay. So it's still not too late to get 2015 in order. And I found that you can do, if you've got a small business, you can probably get all of that work done in 2 days. And I know people that are spending weeks trying to get their stuff together. If you have any questions about this, you can leave a comment on the post. You can join the Small Biz Life community on Facebook, and you can ask your questions there. It's a great community. If you're not there, you don't know what you're missing.
Go there.
Go there now. Small Biz Life community, if you search for that in Facebook. My app of the week this week.
Don't I get to go over my list of 4,221 things to look for in an accountant?
No, we don't have time.
Most of them aren't really appropriate anyway. Okay, go ahead.
You spent all your time on your article this week. My app of the week this week. So we were talking about accounting systems. I use QuickBooks Online, and QuickBooks Online has an app for your phone. And I started using this a couple weeks ago. I was kind of, in the past, their app wasn't very good. So I downloaded the app and I started playing with it. Guys, it's amazing. I have not used QuickBooks on my computer since I downloaded the app.
Wow.
I can receive payments through the app. You can do invoices through the app.
And isn't the most important one like estimates and invoices through the mobile? I mean, especially if you're moving around and working out, on the road, I can't imagine a more important.
Yeah, I mean, it's great because, usually, if a customer sends me a check, I've got to go to my computer. I do all my deposits through mobile anyways. This is great because I don't have to log into my computer to record the payment. I can just open up the QuickBooks app, record the payment, then deposit it through my bank. It's great. If you have a credit card reader, and you use their credit card processing, you can actually create a sales receipt on the spot and take a credit card payment.
Wow.
So you can enter expenses, and then if you enter an expense, you can actually take a picture of the receipt, and it will enter the expense for you.
Keep an image linked. Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. So this is just, it's saving me so much time. I can look at my profit and loss. I can look at my outstanding receivables. I know who owes me money wherever I go in the app. So if you're using QuickBooks Online, you can download this from the iTunes store or from the Google Play store. If you're trying to figure out which system you want to use, this is, for me, this is kind of a game changer with QuickBooks. So, if you don't have a system and you're looking at QuickBooks, I do have special pricing on QuickBooks Online because I'm a pro advisor. So you can always feel free to reach out to me and we can talk about it.
Awesome.
So, yeah. So my tip of the week, if you have not already gotten your stuff together for tax season, now is the time. We're starting the second week of February this week. And trust me, if you don't start getting stuff together now, you're just going to keep procrastinating, and soon it's going to be April and you're going to be on extension, and then it's going to be out October, and then you're going to be freaking out. So get it done now. Don't wait. And if you have any questions, you need any help, reach out to us. That's what we're here for.
Yep.
Any final parting thoughts?
Nothing appropriate.
That's your statement of the week. Nothing appropriate. Well, thanks so much for listening. I'm glad that we could be here and help educate you and help motivate you to grow and thrive in your business. Please check out the Small Biz community on Facebook. We will link it in the show notes. Check out the show notes for all the things that we mentioned in this episode, including Jeff's article and the tips that we talked about for choosing an accountant, the links to QuickBooks and Xero and Wave. And it's a great place that, you can leave a question there. You can reach out to us through the website. Again, our website is smallbizlife.com. Thanks so much. Have a great week. Thank you for listening to Small Biz Life. If you enjoyed the show, please take a few minutes to rate and review the show on iTunes or Stitcher. Please visit smallbizlife.com to view today's show notes, take this week's poll, join the Facebook community, follow us on Twitter, or submit a question for the mailbag. Support the show by checking the resources page or by going to smallbizlife.com/Amazon whenever you shop.
This was Small Biz Life. This was Small Biz Life.